Welcome to a deep dive, into something pretty wild, something called spinal catastrophism.
Spinal catastrophism.
Yeah, have you ever heard of this?
I am not.
So get this, it's this idea that our spines, right, the things that allow us to walk upright,
Right.
might actually hold the key to understanding not just human history,
Okay.
but like the fate of intelligent life itself.
Whoa.
It's pretty intense.
Yeah, so in his book, Spinal Catastrophism, the author Thomas Moynihan
Okay.
argues that our upright posture,
Mm-hmm.
it's not just a neat evolutionary trick.
Right.
Like, oh, we can stand up.
Yeah.
He suggests it's actually a burden, a source of what he calls geotraumatic vivisection.
Geotraumatic vivisection. Hold on. That
Look,
sounds pretty intense.
It's a mouthful, right?
Yeah.
Moynihan, he definitely likes his dramatic phrases.
Okay.
But what he's getting at is that standing upright was a radical shift for our ancestors.
Okay.
It really messed with their sense of balance, their connection to the earth, their whole way of experiencing the world.
Okay.
And that trauma, he argues, it echoes through us even today.
I've always taken pride in our upright posture. It sets us apart from other animals.
Right, of course.
But to think of it as a source of trauma, that's like a real mind shift for me.
Right.
So basically, is spinal catastrophism saying that standing upright messed us up?
Yeah, kind of. That's the basic idea.
Okay.
Moynihan argues that this spinal trauma
Okay.
drove the development of our big brains and our technology. And it pushed us further and further from our natural state.
Okay.
And here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
He suggests this might ultimately lead to our downfall.
Okay, so how do we go from spines to the downfall of humanity?
That's a great question.
I mean, is my bad posture going to cause the apocalypse?
Maybe not your bad posture specifically, but Moynihan traces this idea back through history.
Okay.
And he shows how spines have really captivated thinkers for centuries, often in some really unusual ways.
So where does this whole spinal catastrophism thing come from?
Well,
Did Moynihan just make this up?
he didn't just pull it out of thin air.
Okay.
He actually delves into the work of Daniel Charles Barker,
Okay.
who coined the term spinal catastrophism.
Okay.
And Barker himself drew on some pretty wild theories.
Oh, really? Like what?
So you've got scientists like J.D. Bernal,
Uh-huh.
who imagined a future where humans are basically brains on sticks.
Brains on sticks.
Yeah, escaping the limitations of the body altogether.
Whoa.
And then there's Elaine Morgan,
Okay.
who you might know from the aquatic ape hypothesis.
Yeah.
She connected things like obesity and back pain to our evolutionary history of standing upright.
So we've got brains in jars and back pain.
Right.
This is getting pretty out there.
And it gets even weirder.
Oh, no.
We've got Wilhelm von Branca,
Okay.
who was a paleontologist, and he proposed that humans might actually have a second brain in our pelvic region.
Wait a second, brain.
Yeah.
Is that even possible?
It sounds crazy, right? And then you've got Sandor Ferenczi,
Okay.
who was a psychoanalyst.
Yeah.
And he had this whole theory about sleep being a type of phylogenetic regression.
Phylogenetic regression.
Yeah, where our consciousness retreats down the spine.
Okay. I'm going to need you to break that down for me.
Okay.
What is phylogenetic regression?
Basically, he's saying that sleep is a temporary decapitation.
Whoa.
The spine takes over.
Really?
He even suggests that dreams are spinal emissions.
So you're telling me my dreams are coming from my spine, not my brain?
That's what Ferenczi was saying.
Wow.
It's all part of this idea that the spine might house our deepest, most primal instincts and memories.
So we've got all these fascinating thinkers,
Right.
past and present,
Yeah.
who see the spine as something way more than just,
Yeah.
a bunch of bones holding us up.
Absolutely. It's more than just a biological structure.
So what does Moynihan do with all of this?
He weaves all of this together with his idea that the spine is actually a chronicle of trauma. It's like a record of Earth's history, shaped by all of those cataclysmic events that have happened over millions of years.
So my spine is like a history book.
Kinda.
Okay, I am hooked. Tell me more about how he connects the spine to the Earth's history.
He connects it to this idea called recapitulation, which basically means that individual development mirrors the evolution of species.
So you're saying that my spine is carrying around the history of life on Earth?
It's a way to think about it, yeah.
So we're like walking, talking fossils.
It's as if our bodies carry the echoes of these ancient events.
Wow.
And Moynihan takes it a step further with this concept of the spinal soul.
Okay, hold on. My soul is in my spine.
Well, not literally, but
I always thought it was somewhere, a little more ethereal.
right, of course. But Moynihan's argument here
Okay.
is that our deepest, most primal instincts and memories might actually reside in the spine,
Mm,
influencing our behavior
really?
and even how we perceive time.
Okay, so how does our sense of time get tied into all of this?
Well, Moynihan uses this very vivid metaphor
Okay.
of the spine as a marker of chronogenic whiplash.
Chronogenic whiplash. Uh, you're going to have to explain that one.
It's a mouthful, right?
Yeah.
He's saying that the development of our nervous system,
Huh?
which is intricately connected to the spine, is linked to this sense of accelerating time
Okay.
and a desire to kind of escape the present.
Oh, like that feeling that I get sometimes,
Yeah.
that time is just slipping away.
Exactly.
And that urge to constantly be doing more.
Right.
What if that's not just modern stress?
Hey, what if it's something deeper? Something rooted in the way our nervous system developed alongside the spine.
So you're saying my anxiety about getting everything done is my spine's fault?
Well, it's not quite that simple.
Okay, good.
But Moynihan is arguing that this chronogenic whiplash
What?
is part of a larger pattern, that intelligence itself might be self-destructive.
So he's saying our intelligence, driven by our, messed up spines, is going to lead to our own destruction.
That's the basic idea.
Wow.
He believes that intelligence spurred by that spinal trauma of standing upright
Okay.
leads to technological advancement
Uh-huh.
and a disconnect from our natural environment.
And that disconnect,
Ultimately leads to a catastrophic end.
he makes it sound pretty dire.
He does, and he actually calls this the galactic stomachache hypothesis.
Galactic stomachache.
Yeah.
Sounds like something I get after too much Thanksgiving dinner.
Well, it's funny you should say that because it's actually not that different.
Okay.
The idea is that advanced civilizations might not become spacefaring,
Okay.
not because they can't, but because they get so consumed by their own comforts and technologies
Yeah.
that they decline.
Oh, so we're too busy, making our lives easier, more comfortable to bother with exploring the stars?
Essentially, yes.
Mhm.
And remember Elaine Morgan's observations about upright posture being linked to obesity and back pain?
Yes, she thought those were potential indicators of a deeper evolutionary problem.
Exactly.
Wow.
Moynihan connects those ideas to the galactic stomachache,
Okay.
suggesting that we might be too fat for space, both literally and figuratively.
Okay. But wouldn't freeing ourselves from the limitations of the body, like Bernal suggested with those brains on sticks,
Right.
actually be a good thing?
It might seem that way.
Wouldn't that lead to, even greater possibilities for intelligence?
It's a great question.
Or are we just stuck with these problematic spines?
It gets to the heart of some of the dilemmas that Moynihan raises.
Mm.
It might seem like escaping our bodies would solve everything.
Yeah.
But then you have to ask,
Okay.
what happens to our connection to the world, to our sense of ourselves, if we abandon our physical forms?
This is a lot to take in.
It is.
I think I need a minute to process.
Yeah.
Maybe lie down and see if my spine tries to tell me anything in my dreams.
Let me know what it says.
But we've only just scratched the surface of spinal catastrophism, haven't we?
We've only just begun.
Oh, boy.
There's a lot more to unpack here,
Yeah.
including what all of this means.
Okay.
Not just for humanity, but for other intelligent life out there in the universe.
And we'll dive into all of that in part 2 of our deep dive into spinal catastrophism. So we're back. And my spine hasn't whispered any ancient secrets to me yet.
Not yet.
But we're talking about spinal catastrophism.
Right.
This mind-bending idea that our upright posture might be leading us to self-destruction.
Right.
And last time we left off with this image of us being too fat for space,
Yeah.
both literally and metaphorically.
It's a provocative image, isn't it?
It is.
And I think it speaks to this deeper anxiety about whether intelligence, our drive to progress, is ultimately going to be our undoing.
So where do we go from here? I mean, are we just doomed to repeat this cycle of, spinal trauma and technological advancement and eventually just collapsing under the weight of our own progress?
Well, Moynihan doesn't necessarily see it as a foregone conclusion. He's not saying this is definitely going to happen.
Okay.
But he is urging us to pay attention to these patterns,
Okay.
these tendencies that we see throughout history and even in our own bodies.
So what's the alternative?
Well,
If we're not just passively accepting this whole spinal catastrophism thing, what can we do about it?
Moynihan doesn't offer like a simple solution,
Okay.
There's no magic bullet here.
Right.
But he does point to the importance of awareness.
Okay.
He wants us to recognize the interconnectedness of our minds, our bodies, and the environment.
Okay.
To be mindful of how our technologies are shaping us, for better or for worse.
So it's not about rejecting technology altogether.
No, not at all.
It's about using it more consciously and responsibly.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
It's about finding a balance, a way to integrate technology into our lives without letting it dominate us. We can use it to enhance our well-being, not just to distract us from the things that really matter.
Okay, so that's technology.
Yeah.
What about our bodies? I keep thinking about this idea of the spine as a chronicle of trauma.
Yeah.
As a record of Earth's history.
Uh,
If our bodies are carrying all of that, all those echoes of ancient cataclysms,
right.
is there a way to heal from that?
That's a really interesting question.
Yeah.
And one that Moynihan only touches on briefly.
Okay.
But he suggests that practices like yoga,
Okay.
meditation, or even just spending time in nature might help us reconnect with our bodies and process some of those deeper traumas.
So taking a walk in the woods is an act of spinal rebellion.
You could say that.
I like that.
It's interesting to think that maybe by cultivating a deeper awareness of our physical selves,
Yeah.
we might be able to access and heal those ancient wounds that are supposedly etched into our very bones.
It ties back to what we were just talking about with, cultivating a more holistic approach to intelligence.
It does.
It's not just about our minds.
Right.
It's about our bodies, our emotions.
Yes.
Our connection to the natural world.
Exactly. It's about becoming more conscious, more compassionate, and more connected to the web of life that sustains us.
Okay, so we've talked about the spine as this record of trauma.
Right.
But in the first part, you also mentioned how Moynihan connects our spines to the evolution of consciousness.
Yeah.
Can you unpack that a bit more for me?
He delves into this idea that our upright posture, while potentially traumatic,
Right.
also had this profound impact on how our minds developed.
Okay.
It freed our hands for tool, use our mouths for speech, and it reoriented our senses, changing our relationship to the world around us.
So it wasn't all bad, this whole standing upright thing?
It's never that simple, is it?
No, I guess not.
Moynihan points to thinkers like the German neurologist Erwin Strauss,
Yeah.
who studied how our sense of balance and spatial orientation influence how we experience the world. Strauss believed that our upright posture played a crucial role in the development of human consciousness and rationality.
So our ability to think abstractly,
Yeah.
to reason, to even have this conversation, is somehow tied to the fact that we stand on two legs.
That's the idea.
Wow.
But remember, Moynihan also draws on thinkers who see this connection between uprightness and rationality in a more negative light.
You mean like those in the philosophical anthropology school?
Exactly. Thinkers like Arnold Gellin and Paul Ellsberg.
Okay.
They saw uprightness as a burden,
Okay.
a constant struggle against gravity that forces us to develop our minds and technologies to compensate for our physical limitations.
So we're constantly striving to overcome our physical limitations.
Right?
And that striving is what drives our technological progress.
That's one way to look at it, yeah.
It's like we're trying to outrun our own shadows. And the faster we run, the darker the shadows become.
I like that analogy.
And Moynihan explores this idea through figures like J.D. Bernal, who we talked about earlier, with his vision of humans as disembodied brains and spinal cords.
Exactly.
Bernal saw this as the logical endpoint of technological progress.
Yeah, liberation from the limitations of our physical forms.
But that also brings us back to Elaine Morgan.
Right.
And her observations about obesity and back pain.
Yes.
It's like our technological advancements,
Yeah.
while aimed at making our lives easier and more comfortable, are actually making us less adaptable, less resilient.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We become so reliant on technology that we lose touch with our natural instincts, our ability to cope with challenges.
We're too fat for space.
Right. Both literally and figuratively.
We're weighed down by our comforts,
Yeah.
by our reliance on technology,
Wow.
and by the very intelligence that we've come to depend on.
It's a fascinating and somewhat depressing thought.
It is. So, is there any hope for us? Or are we just doomed to become slaves to our own inventions?
Moynihan doesn't present it as a hopeless situation.
Okay.
He wants us to be more conscious of the choices we're making
Okay.
as individuals and as a species. He's asking us to think not just about what we can do,
Okay.
but about what we should do. To consider the long-term consequences of our actions, not just the immediate gratification.
It's a tall order,
It is.
but I can see why he thinks it's important. If we want to avoid becoming another casualty of spinal catastrophism,
Right.
we need to start thinking differently, acting differently.
Absolutely.
But how do we even begin to do that?
Well, one way is to look to the past.
Okay.
To those thinkers who have wrestled with these very questions about the nature of intelligence, the role of technology, and the future of humanity.
Okay.
Moynihan draws on a wide range of sources.
Yeah.
From philosophy to psychology to evolutionary biology to try to piece together a more holistic understanding of where we've come from and where we might be headed.
So it's not just about looking back.
Right.
It's about using that knowledge to inform our choices going forward.
Exactly. It's about understanding the patterns, the tendencies that have shaped us.
Okay.
So that we can make more informed and conscious choices about the future we're creating. And that's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
Because spinal catastrophism isn't just about humans. It has potential implications for other intelligent life out there in the universe.
So is my spine somehow connected to aliens?
Maybe not directly.
Okay.
But Moynihan suggests that spinal catastrophism might offer a new perspective on the Fermi paradox.
The Fermi paradox.
Yeah, if the universe is so big and so old.
Right, where is everybody?
Exactly. And Moynihan suggests that maybe the reason we haven't found evidence of other civilizations isn't because they don't exist, but because they've all succumbed to the same pattern of self-destruction. Maybe intelligence, by its very nature, is prone to a kind of galactic stomachache.
That's a pretty bleak thought.
It is, but it's also a thought that forces us to confront some uncomfortable truths about ourselves.
Right.
And maybe, just maybe,
Okay.
by understanding the challenges and limitations of intelligence, we can find a way to break the cycle to create a different kind of future, both for ourselves and for any other intelligent life that might be out there.
This is a lot to digest.
It is.
I think I need another walk in the woods to let my spine process all of this.
I think we all do.
We're not done yet, are we?
Not cool.
There's still more to uncover about spinal catastrophism.
We've only just scratched the surface.
Okay.
In the final part of our deep dive, we'll explore what all of this means for us.
Okay.
For our understanding of ourselves and our place in the universe.
Okay.
We'll look at the potential implications of spinal catastrophism. Not just as a warning,
right,
but as an invitation to imagine a different kind of future.
Right. I'm ready for part 3. Okay, so here we are in the final part of our deep dive into spinal catastrophism.
It's been quite a journey.
It really has. You know, we've covered a lot of ground from traumatized spines to brains in jars.
Right.
To the possibility that we're all just too comfy to reach for the stars. You know, what do we do with all this?
That's the big question, isn't it?
Yeah, knowing all of this about spinal catastrophism, where do we even go from here?
Right.
It's all very thought-provoking, but it can also feel a little overwhelming.
Right.
Like, is this all just a fancy way of saying humanity is doomed?
Well,
should I just cancel my gym membership and embrace the galactic stomachache?
I wouldn't recommend giving up on your fitness goals just yet.
Okay, good.
Remember, Moynihan isn't presenting this as a prophecy of inevitable doom.
Okay.
He's offering us a framework, a way of seeing ourselves and our place in the universe.
Okay.
That might help us make more conscious choices.
So it's not a death sentence, but it's not exactly a pep talk either.
It's more of a wake-up call, I'd say.
Okay.
A challenge to look at our own history, our own bodies, and our relationship with technology in a new light.
You know, when we first started talking about the spine as this chronicle of trauma, I was skeptical. But the more we've kind of unpacked this, the more I'm starting to see the connections. That feeling of time slipping away, that constant urge to do more, to be more.
Right.
Maybe it is connected to something deeper.
Yeah.
Something rooted in our evolutionary past.
It's a fascinating idea.
It is.
That our very bodies might be carrying the echoes of Earth's tumultuous history, shaping not just our physical form, but our experience of time and consciousness.
And if that's true, then maybe the key to moving forward isn't about denying or escaping our past, but about understanding it and integrating it.
Right.
About finding a way to heal those ancient wounds that are supposedly etched into our spines.
It's a powerful thought.
Yeah.
And it connects to what we were discussing earlier about cultivating a more holistic approach to intelligence.
Right.
One that acknowledges the interconnectedness of our minds, our bodies, and the environment.
So instead of just striving for, you know, bigger brains and fancier gadgets,
right,
we need to find a way to live more harmoniously within ourselves and within the world around us.
I agree.
To find that balance between progress and preservation.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that we're not just thinking beings, but feeling, sensing, embodied beings.
Right.
And that all of those aspects of ourselves are important.
I also keep thinking about what you said about the Fermi paradox.
Yeah.
And the possibility that other civilizations might have succumbed to this galactic stomachache.
It's a sobering thought.
It is a reminder that intelligence alone isn't enough to guarantee survival.
A humbling thought for sure, but it's also an invitation to do things differently, to learn from the potential mistakes of our predecessors and chart a new course for ourselves.
So what does that look like in practice?
Oh.
What are some concrete things we can do to avoid becoming another statistic in the cosmic graveyard of failed civilizations?
Moynihan doesn't offer a step-by-step guide.
Right.
A 10-point plan to save humanity from spinal catastrophism.
Okay, but give us something to work with here.
Well, he talks about the importance of cultivating a sense of humility, of recognizing the limits of our knowledge and the potential consequences of our actions. He emphasizes the need for compassion, both for ourselves and for other beings.
Oh.
And he stresses the value of interconnectedness, of understanding that we're all part of a larger web of life.
Those are good starting points.
Yeah.
But they also sound a bit vague.
Right.
How do we translate those principles into real-world action?
That's where things get interesting, and where I think each of us has to find our own way. It might mean making different choices about the technologies we use and how we use them.
Okay.
It might mean prioritizing experiences that connect us to nature and to each other.
Right.
It might mean simply paying more attention to our bodies, to the messages they're sending us.
It sounds like spinal catastrophism is ultimately about a shift in perspective, a way of seeing ourselves and our place in the universe that is both more grounded and more expansive.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that we're part of something much bigger than ourselves. A vast and interconnected web of life that extends across space and time.
And that our choices, our actions, have ripple effects that we may never fully comprehend.
Exactly. But that doesn't mean we should give up or despair.
Right.
It means we should approach the future with humility, with a deep sense of responsibility, and with a willingness to learn and adapt.
That quote we mentioned earlier keeps coming back to me.
Which one?
Perhaps the next time you experience back pain, it's not just a physical ailment, but a whisper from the depths of evolutionary time, a reminder of the catastrophic journey of intelligence.
That's a powerful image.
It suggests that our bodies are not just vessels, they're storytellers. They carry within them the history of our species, the echoes of our triumphs and our failures.
Right.
And maybe by listening to those stories, by paying attention to those whispers of our bodies, we can gain a deeper understanding of who we are and where we're going.
It's a beautiful thought.
I think that's a good place to wrap up this deep dive into spinal catastrophism.
I agree.
It's been a wild ride, full of unexpected twists and turns, and I'm not sure I've fully processed all of it yet.
It's a lot to take in.
But I definitely feel like I've gained a new perspective, a new way of seeing the world and my place in it.
I feel the same way.
And for our listeners, if you're feeling even a little bit intrigued by all of this, I highly recommend checking out Thomas Moynihan's book, Spinal Catastrophism.
It's a great book.
It's a challenging read, but it's full of fascinating insights, and it will definitely make you think differently about everything.
Absolutely.
From back pain to the fate of the universe.
It's a book that will stay with you long after you finish reading it. And who knows, it might even inspire you to make some changes in your own life, however small they could contribute to a more balanced and sustainable future for us all.
So until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.
This has been The Deep Dive.